Let's start the 295th episode. Today, the conversation revolves around the death of the resume. What will replace it? Now, why does this question really, come into existence? Why are we asking this question to school leaders, to teachers, and to teenagers? The idea is very simple. Currently, it only takes a teenager around 30 seconds to generate a perfect resume. So if everyone has a perfect resume, does it really matter to have one? How are recruiters looking at hiring people? How are colleges, universities looking at recruiting UG students? What is really happening? We're not really looking at the paper proof anymore. We want something real in the form of portfolios, in the form of some work that you have done. Proof of work has become more important than the trail of paper. That's the change that we're going to discuss today.
We're going to be talking about the death of resume, what will replace it. So let me just give a brief introduction first. Like for decades, resume used to be like the main source for hiring someone. So it focuses on grades, degrees, and then years of experience. Well, this is very important because that can show some credentials, but we live in a world where everything is going in a fast pace, and then these degrees, the skills, and the years of experience are not matter like too much nowadays. So what matters is the employers, they want to see some real life experience. So for example, if you claim that you have done something like at your work, this is still a claim until you see it in reality, and that's why companies right now are very picky when it comes to hiring people. So based on that, the hiring now is based on many different things. The first one is the skills demonstration. So based on that skills demonstration, so for example, if you want to hire a programmer, they will ask you, why don't you give me a complete coding challenge, and then they can see how they can solve that challenge. For a teacher, they can ask them to have a lesson plan as a sample to see how they deliver the lesson, the content they provide. And then for marketing, they can ask any other proposal. So this can show real life skills, which is called the skills-based hiring. And many companies nowadays, according to some test gorillas, 2025, I was searching, it says they hire 85% of the people or the employee HR, they use the skills-based recruitment. Another thing will be the digital portfolios. Many of the students nowadays, especially the Gen Z, they like to do some podcasts. They have to make some portfolios and so on. And this is also very important. And I always advise my students to have a LinkedIn, because when you have a LinkedIn, you're connected to really educated people. It's not like a social media, but it's a media where students can get benefit and make connections. So through digital portfolios, the students will be introduced to many things. They can provide projects, presentations, videos, podcasts, creative work online, etc. And then the last thing I want to talk about is artificial intelligence. Since artificial intelligence is part of our life, we cannot get rid of it, but we have to live with it. So how do we cope with that? We have now the expectation is so high because the artificial intelligence, within one click, all the students can get access to multiple resources. So the expectation of the hiring is even higher. So how can we deal with this? Let me just give you a brief introduction for my curriculum, which is the British Columbia curriculum, which is part of the Canadian curriculum. So what we do is we focus on the core competencies which directly relate to the 21st centuries, which are the communication, critical thinking, creative thinking, and personal and social responsibilities. So basically, we're working on the well-rounded students, not only the academic part. Within our curriculum, we focus on collaboration with the teams, solving real-world problems, presenting ideas, and then adapt to changes, and then think independently. And then, so perhaps the resume is not completely dying, but it's almost like shrinking. So the question is no longer what's written on your resume, but the main question is what value can you bring to the world and what can you do about it? That's all. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for welcoming me. I'm really excited to be here. Resumes. I actually Googled how long we've had resumes, and I was excited to learn that they've existed for over 500 years for us to further our careers and share with the world what it is. More recently, they've changed with the advent of word processing, which again, for many of you might be a long distant past. But then AI has come along, and AI, as Dax was saying, has, even at the click of a button, been allowing us to generate resumes and share with the world what we've been doing. I agree with Mr. Abbas about the fact that it is much more important to show what a person can do. And I think we have moved away from static documentation, where we prove this is my employment history, or these are the skills, to looking for evidence. And I think we already have some platforms that do this really well. LinkedIn was mentioned as a platform that is creating a living resume, but I think this is developing really quite fast, and is moving towards work graphs, things like verified skills, contribution histories, peer endorsements, which are all part of what you can see on LinkedIn already, and is something that employers will be looking for. I think portfolio, you're right, is going to be a crucial element of what we want our students to do. And they sometimes struggle to see the point of portfolios because they're thinking in the here and the now. And they're also presenting portfolios of just what they've done. What we want to see is higher capability thinking in terms of critical thinking and engagement with the learning, rather than just demonstrating an artifact of learning. So artifacts are moving out, and more fluid, flexible 21st century skills are moving in. I think we also need to be mindful of the fact that AI may have an impact on the profiles that could be generated through systems like AI observing how people work, and then they can generate automatic profiles. So overall, things are happening, and they're happening really, really fast. I don't think they will disappear completely, because resumes are cheap, standardized, they're portable, they're easy to skim, and we're familiar with them. And all of that creates a sense of comfort. So I think what we can expect in the future is that the strongest candidates will replace their static resumes with verified AI readable and continuously update professional identities, but that there will be a place for the PDF resume for people for the initial hiring processes. And I think that is something that is evolving as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It is such a wonderful platform. I must comment on the fact that there are so many diverse people from different walks of life, and I really appreciate that. Coming back to the topic of the death of the resume, death is a big word. So, as others said earlier, resumes haven't changed over so many years, right? It is the same two-page dates, job titles. What are the things that I'm good at that we're going to show people, right, when we give it? But the way people work now has changed. The way my students are going to work has changed. The schools are changing. There's a shift, right? And we are still sitting here judging people based on that one piece of document. So yes, there is a change that's required. At MGIS, when we work, we often ask ourselves a question: is what kind of future are we preparing our children for? And because when we look at our students, we see so much more than marks and grades, right? We see children who are solving problems, working together, leading projects, learning from mistakes, asking thoughtful questions, and finding creative ways to think. I believe students are already doing meaningful work, things that cannot be fully explained in a few bullet points on a resume, right? So that does make us wonder, is resume the best way to understand what someone can do? Obviously not. The traditional resume was built in a different world for a different kind of people. Now, people who wanted to probably stay in the same kind of role for many years. So we were measuring the resume by time, right? Not the work that was done. But today, the world values are something different. Today, we value people who can adapt, solve problems, work with others, keep learning. Of course, I mentioned thinking creatively, differently. So, what might matter more in the future is portfolios, like you all said earlier. Portfolios is something when you show what you're doing, not just talk about what you're doing. At our school, at MGIS, since it's an experiential project-based school, students already create projects. They're creating presentations. They're writing reflections on what they're doing. The projects are designed based on real life experiences, right? So now, if slowly I get my children to create a collection of work over the years, something that truly shows for what they've done through the years, right? So real skills that with real evidence is what I think I'm talking about. Instead of saying I'm a good leader, a student can show that how he or she is a good leader, how he or she can work in collaboration with other people, because that's what matters in real life in an actual job situation. Also, how students think and work, because some of the most important learning happens during the processes of a project or process of learning. So when students struggle or try again, they show resilience, they show persistence. So that's when they're actually learning to adapt the future. Like we discussed earlier, I think somebody already mentioned how AI is creating polished answers. You also mentioned how AI has become so easy for children to. So it is a page that could be very easily printed out from AI. But what is going to matter is how the children are thinking. Also, it is something that the schools have to do now. It has become our responsibility to teach or show children how we can create portfolios. I mean, we can't wait for industries.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, good afternoon to all of you. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to Blub World for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share my thought. First, I would like to explain what is the meaning of resume itself. So it is a document used for by applicant to summarize their professional experience, educational qualification, and skill. And the very purpose is to showcase our qualification and potential to employer and prove that we are fit for a specific role. So based on the purpose of resume, I personally believe that resume is not going to die or completely dead. I believe resume is evolving because there was a time when resume didn't even exist. Then industry grew, competition increased, and organizations needed a way uh, to document person's qualification, achievement, and everything. Then come cover letter, and after that, online applications we are filing. And then today, we are living in an age of LinkedIn profiles, digital portfolios, and AI-powered hiring system. So resume is not disappearing; it is actually transforming itself with time. However, there are certain, you can say, serious problems with traditional resume. First, that traditional resumes are text-based. They define human beings only by what they have achieved in the past. For example, their marks, job titles, experiences, and certificates. Another major problem that traditional resume has is the applicant tracking systems. As we all know, and many of you have already mentioned that, many companies or schools, they are using ATS software to filter resume before human even sees them. So if a resume does not contain exact keywords that the companies are looking for, then there is a chance that their resume will automatically get rejected. As a result, many deserving candidates are not even getting opportunity to prove themselves. Now, another challenge that have emerged because of AI is that even job seekers are using AI to create perfect resume that contains all the keywords that companies are looking for. And this is creating a trust problem by recruiters. And there is another harsh reality that we all have to accept, that even I also do same thing. Many schools and organizations do same thing, that we select resume based on prestigious colleges, famous university, where they have worked. Sometimes talent is judged more by brand name attached to the resume than by actual capability of individual. So what will replace the traditional resume? I believe the future belongs to proof of work rather than proof on paper. The modern workplace no longer wants only information, it wants evidence. So a LinkedIn profile, our projects online, our work, your achievement, and even the way we communicate. Thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody present over here. It's a proud privilege to be the part of this particular event to speak on to the topic, the death of the resume. The topic itself is so alarming, the death of the resume. What will replace it? What is going to replace? As all of y'all have clearly said, it's going to be replaced by a personal branding. What people are doing, they need to prove it. We don't need nowadays, no recruiter wants a documentation. Nobody wants a one-page resume which has been created by AI. As it has already been said that AI is a future, no, AI is a present itself. And everybody, today's learner is a one who can unlearn to learn new things very fast. Well-educated person is considered that. It's not because of the education. It is how fast you are adapting to the things, how quick you are learning with the things, and how you can adapt yourself with AI. If a person today is not at all accepting AI and is considering basically it's there in the news everywhere, the teachers will be replaced. No, nobody can replace human being. Nobody can replace teachers. Yes, but those who are AI trained teachers, they will have always first place. They will always climb up the ladder. So death of the resume is the death of the people, those who are just using fake AI to make their resume very attractive, but they are not able to deliver the right life skills, as has been clearly said by many of the speakers over here at this particular platform. All of us, when I was listening, are focusing on to one thing, the core human skills, interpersonal, intrapersonal, 21st century skills that we are focusing on to. And all these will come how? The day. Only what has changed is a mode has changed. Earlier, our grandparents are value driven. The teachers have completely different role. Educators have a completely different role in the society. Today, role has changed. It has become better and faster with the AI invention. But along with that, there are a lot many drawbacks. We as an educators have to understand and draw a thin line how we have to use it, how it is going to help our children, how it is going to help our parents. Very, very important and essential. AI is a very essential tool today. And if you see, there are so many jobs turning up: parenting coach, emotional intelligence coach, social learning coach. We are all millennials. Who has taught us this? But when we listen and when we go through these certification courses today also, then we realize we've already learned this with the passage of time. Now with AI, people are fortunate. Young generation is very much fortunate. They see, visualize, and are old. It was a old age saying that you should follow the advice what your elders are saying. Otherwise, you will fall. But today's generation don't want to. So this AI is, in a way, it is a blessing wherein we are showing them the examples through pictorial ways, various forms to help them understand, grow. So the death of the resume is not the death of resume. Basically, it is a warning, a sign to evolve with the changing time and learn the new tools. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank Bulb World for really inviting me for this talk. I believe we are living in a world of, or the age of the death of the resume. A single sheet no longer judges a human being. For years, resume was talking about grades, degrees, and even the job title of a person. But I think the future is going to ask, though it's a resume, though it is something that might be created by AI or whatever. But when you have the face-to-face interview, you really understand what the person talks. So when the question throws like, can you solve this problem, work in a group of people, adapt, create, and lead, there the problem begins. As a principal, I have seen, average students solving extraordinary issues. And when there is a very excellent students with excellent marks is finding difficult to collaborate. Now there, I agree with even Reena ma'am before Ria ma'am, what she said that we have learned from our elders, and now the generation coming up is learning it from AI. But I believe what the resume is going to get replaced is with the digital footprint of skills, empathy, the emotional intelligence. So when there is a face off with the person, you will understand what the person can do rather than what is written in the resume. So projects for the students, I believe how we can as a school help them out is by projects, community services, bringing them to a platform where they can speak, talk about, and even develop their own self branding kind of a thing. So the future is going to ask them what is not there in the paper, but what human they are becoming that can adapt. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think all the honorable speakers have really summed it up very well. Now, I'll just add something over here. First of all, I do agree with the statement that the first part of the statement that the traditional resume are dying, not the whole resume is dying. Okay. But we also need to understand the truth, and we need to cut through the noise also. So recently, I have spoken to some of the HR heads from diverse industries, coal, textiles, education, some talent acquisition firms, the heads of the talent acquisition. So according to them, their collective input was clear. As of today, the CV is still relevant. And we cannot do away with it entirely, but the way it is looking and the way it is evolving, like everybody else has said, it is going to be evolving throughout now after this and rapidly. So now that also brings us to the next part of the question, what will replace it? And I think most of them have again answered, it is going to be the evidence of work, the portfolios, the concrete proof of work, the dynamic job seeking platforms, the holistic solutions for the recruitment and all. Because what we all know, the recruiters also know that what is in the resume may not be actually or maybe completely disconnected with the candidate's real world capabilities. Now, here is my advice to the young friends sitting here, that you will be joining this workforce in the next 5 to 7 years, maybe. So stop focusing on the resume perfection and start putting together the proof of work. And like your mentors and your teachers are telling you, and be innovative, be relevant, and be acceptable, use acceptable formats. So that is more important, because the modern companies are looking past the pedigree and the GPA. They are looking more at the tangible proof of work. And it is the responsibility of the school, colleges, and universities to provide this opportunity, this education to the young ones. So it is not only for the privileged ones, it is, I think, for everyone. So at the end, I would just like to say that it is a critical rule that you still have to be the person on the CV. So be authentic, build your proof, and let your human intelligence lead the way. That's it. Thank you.
So everyone, I really thank all of you for this opportunity. Let's just get straight to the point. Right now, somewhere in this world, two people are applying for the exact same job. One spent 4 years building their skills, and the other just spent 4 minutes prompting his resume on AI. And the scary part is, on paper, they might look identical. Because that's the uncomfortable truth. The resume worked for a different world, a world where careers were predictable, where technology moved slowly, where degrees alone could guarantee stability. That world no longer exists. Today, we're entering an economy where your ability to adapt matters more than your ability to repeat information. And AI has exposed that faster than anything else. Because let's be real, AI just embarrassed the entire hiring system. It can generate polished resumes, portfolio descriptions, emails, interview answers, and even LinkedIn posts that pretend to sound authentic. So now, employers are realizing something, that potential is no longer measured by credentials alone. And that's exactly why resumes are losing value. Not because achievements don't matter, but because words without proof mean very little now. A resume can tell me you're innovative. Wonderful. So is ChatGPT. The real question is, can you think critically? Can you solve problems? Can you adapt when the rules change? Because the people succeeding right now are not the ones fighting change, they are the ones weaponizing it. Every generation faces a technological shift. Some people fear it, others learn it quietly and dominate because of it. The people treating AI like an enemy are spending their energy trying to protect the past, while the people learning AI are building the future. And employers can see the difference immediately. That's why hiring is shifting towards portfolios, simulations, projects, and digital presence. Because companies don't just want candidates who study information, they want candidates who can apply it. Here is an example. The World Economic Forum predicts that while millions of jobs may disappear due to automation, nearly 69 million new jobs are expected to emerge globally. So this isn't the death of opportunity, it's the death of outdated relevance. Because in an age where anyone can look impressive online, authenticity becomes expensive. Real skills, original thought, and adaptability become expensive. So, no, I don't think the resumes will disappear completely, but it is no longer the center of professional identity. Your work is, your thinking is, your ability to evolve is, and the way you can prove your talents is. Because the future won't belong to the people who resisted change the loudest, it will belong to the people who learned how to turn change into power. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Let me start with a simple question. Many of us has written hardworking or team player on our resumes, right? But let's be honest with us. Do you really think a page can decide our future or our job? Today, the world is changing so fast. The resumes, the most important document for decades, it's slowly losing its power. Let's understand why. A resume is just what you say about yourself, not the real you. But companies doesn't just want to hear about you. They want the proof. In fact, there's a study on human resource director on the site. It mentions that around 73% of companies are already using skill-based tests for recruiting instead of just reading resumes. Let me give you a simple example. I write in my resume that I have a good communication skills, but my presentation goes like, sir, so yeah. So now the company is supposed to believe on my words that I have good communication skills or my performance for a presentation. Resumes can be misleading. Today with AI, in a few minutes, we can create a perfect looking resumes. So thousands of resumes look the same, but none truly stands out. And that's where the system is changing. Companies now ask different questions, not what you have written, but what you can actually do. This is called skill-based hiring. Instead of just reading your resumes, they ask for your real life work, real life projects, how you can solve a problem, your online GitHub profile, LinkedIn profiles, and everything. Some companies don't even ask for resumes anymore. They just like look to your portfolios or your GitHub projects, your LinkedIn profiles, and everything. And this change is happening because the world around is changing. Now we are living in a world of AI. According to global reports, around 39% of job skills will change by 2030. So companies don't care about your past. They care about your ability to learn, to adapt, and to perform. So what basically will replace your resume and what basically you have to prepare yourself for is your projects, your skill in action, your online presence. The world, your work is becoming your identity. So the real message is don't just build a resume because in the future you would be hired for what you claim. You won't be hired. You won't be hired for what you claim. You would be hired what you can prove. The companies won't ask, hello, can you send me your resume? The question would be, can you show us what you can actually do? Thank you, sir.
If you were an employer or if you were a recruiter, would you really hire a student with below average marks but extraordinary projects? Let me go to Mr. Abbas for this. That would you hire somebody who has extraordinary projects but below average marks? Are you now comfortable enough to hire that kind of an individual?
Thank you for asking this question. To be honest, I always tell my students, I'm a vice principal, but I also teach sometimes chemistry, biology, and math. I have multiple subjects that I can teach. I always tell them, you gotta be careful in life. If I am a if I am a CEO of a company and two people apply to the same job, at the end, a B average, a C average, and an A average, they're gonna get the same degree. So they're all capable of getting the degree. But what makes someone candidate above the other are the skills gained. For example, the resiliency, the communication skills, like the problem solving, etc. So as you said, if you said that research, of course, I would really want someone with less experience that can create something out of the box, right? So if you have an experience, you can create anything because this is normal for you. You've been introduced to this. But when you have a research that really amazes you, and then that you think there is imagination, there's something outside that he's bringing to the table. of course it's going to be the candidate, whether his average is C or a B compared to an A candidate that doesn't have all this. So yes, for sure.
I think that's a great question. I've always thought that sometimes our preference for hiring teachers with PhDs was slightly misguided, not to take away from the achievement of a PhD, but that didn't necessarily make them the greatest teachers, because our work is relational and it's social, and having those skills is crucial towards creating success with students. So I think it would depend on the project, but if those projects show the required skills in terms of human interaction and being able to help others learn, so help our students learn, then yes, I would certainly consider this. I mean, I certainly don't think top marks make for top teachers, and I think below average mark, yes, there is a hesitation on my part. Obviously, we look for people who've done well in life, but I also know that that's just one number. Maybe some people are just good test takers. Certainly, when I've hired in the past, some of the people with great on-page qualifications have turned out to be not the best teachers because they've struggled with the demands of what ultimately requires way more than knowledge. And I think the more we move forward with AI, the more important those human skills are becoming, because that is the thing that even the sophisticated AI tools like Claude do not have. They cannot advance relationships. They cannot truly be compassionate and empathetic. So yes, I would certainly seriously consider that. But like the young man was saying earlier, I think skills-based and competency-based hiring is going to showcase more of that. So they would definitely be a contender if they have the right kind of projects for me.
An incident when it's a new school, fairly new school. So we've been looking at so many, I think almost we looked at 100 resumes. We picked the girl who had the least on the resume. So, and it worked out for us very well because in our experience, what has been happening is that we've been meeting people. Some of it works, it doesn't work. We have a system in place where we ask them to, come and work with us for 10 days. Like you said, because it's an alternative school, it is very difficult for teachers to adjust with us. So we call them, we ask them to come work with us for 10 days. Once we, sometimes some people don't want to come because they're coming from far. There are some who are really passionate about working with children. And hence, that works out very well for us. So yes, absolutely, we would. And I have a lot of team members on team.
All the three teenagers or any other teenager on this call, I have a question for all of you. When you will actually go for your first job interview, you'll rather not be going for a job interview. Your every interview will be a hackathon. So are you ready to handle a hackathon for even the slightest of job opportunity that you might get in the future? Janvi, what do you think? Are you ready for that hackathon that might come your way?
I mean, sir, people are not fairly experienced about these kind of job interviews. And for example, I have seen teachers in our school coming to give demo sessions and all that. So it's it is hard. It is a bit scary because we are what do we call them? Lab rats for experiencing something for the first time. So yeah, that's it. I am ready, but a bit scared as well.
We run a very unique institution called the World Teen Parliament, where every year we have teenagers from more than 50 countries who come together and participate. And at the World Teen Parliament, we tried to figure out what are the things that the most expensive schools in the world do that other schools are not able to do. And how are they preparing their students for the future? How are the most expensive universities doing that? How are the most successful education institutions across the world doing that? They're doing that with three very simple things. And absolutely three things. First, access to very successful people. Second, network with their peers across multiple nations. And third, consistent opportunities to use that access and network. For a moment, just sit back and think and rather, try to relive your life, rewind your life a little bit and remove these three things from your life. And you'll realize you would also have been a failure if these three were not there. We have to go back to the core human skills. We cannot be teaching content anymore. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blub World Web Talks. This was the 295th episode. I hope you enjoyed.